back to another Corona Geek here on Google Hangout, where we talk all about mobile app development using Corona SDK. I'm your host, Charles McKeever, and we're joined in the studio today by Bryan Park, developer of Spelling Test. Hello, Bryan.
Hey, how are you doing?
Spelling Test is the #1 rated spelling app for iOS, Android, Kindle Fire, and NOOK. You can find more information about it at funexam.com, and we're going to be talking with Bryan today about how he put his app together and some of the experiences that he had with that, and he's got a lot of great technical stuff to share with us, so we're really glad to have him today. So thanks, Bryan. Thanks for being on the show. Also joining us is Ed Marina. Ed's the author of several books on, did you author any Corona books recently?
No, have not.
Oh, man. Okay, well, we'll
save
that.
The other Bryan's job, though, if you like.
Yeah, we'll save that for next time. Ed is the owner. Ed's actually the owner of Roaming Gamer LLC, where he develops libraries, templates, and other products for use with Corona SDK. So thanks, Ed, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I tried to upgrade you.
I'll take it.
You wanted the doctor label last time, so I just tried to, jump right to it.
If Bryan will give me some of his royalties, I will go there.
That's right. Oh, there you go. All right. Well, we have a few announcements and stuff today to talk about before we get into things, but we want to get to that as quickly as possible. So let's go through these. First of all, you need to know that we're going to start chopping up the Corona Geek videos and making them into these little snack-sized videos that you can watch. So you'll be able to come and watch the full hour show or half-hour show, however long we usually record these things, and you'll also be able to catch the podcast on a regular basis. But we're going to start breaking these things down so that you can actually, get to the information that you want without having to listen to the whole thing if you don't want to. So we do hope you listen to the whole thing, but there you go. We're also going to start doing a new segment called Staff Conversations, where every week we're going to talk with someone from the Corona Lab staff about some topic that is either relevant to what's going on at the time, or maybe something that's of interest to the community as far as the API goes, or things like that. So last week we talked with David Rangel about the new Corona starter tier. We talked about some of the changes to Corona the Pro, and this coming week we're going to be talking with Albert, one of the engineers, and we're going to talk with him about ray castings, which that should be a good conversation. So each week the topic will change and the staff member will change, but I think it's going to be a good format. Those conversations are going to be really short. We're going to try to keep them to probably 10 minutes if we can. Sometimes it's hard to compress a bunch of information into a short time period, but we're going to shoot for that so that they're just these little snack-sized bites that you can watch on a regular basis. All right, we've got a couple of events coming up in the community that you need to know about. April 15th, which is today, there's an event in Tokyo that's taking place. So if you are watching this, you need to run out right now and go to that event, apparently. There's also an event coming on April 18th. When I put these notes together, it made sense, but now that we're the day of, it doesn't make any sense.
Jump on that plane right now.
There you go. So April 18th in Raleigh, North Carolina, there's a meetup, Corona SDK meetup that's going to be taking place, so be sure to check that out. Now, if you want to check out any of the events and maybe actually catch one that's going to happen before it actually is the day of, you can go to coronalabs.com. Right there on the homepage, there's a community calendar, and you can click on that, and you can see the whole list of events, and we've got stuff going on worldwide, and you can find something that's going on in your area. And if there's not something in your area, then email us and let us know, and we'll help you get set up with something. If you want to start your own meetup in your area for Corona, let us know. We'd be happy to help you out with that. All right. There's a few other things you need to know about in the community, and one of those is that Gig Jam 48 is coming. This is the guys from Glitch Games. They're putting together a game jam. It's going to be an online event, and it's going to happen in May. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes, but they've already got, I think they said they had like $3,500 worth of prizes to give out from sponsors. So we're looking forward to that event coming up pretty soon here, pretty quick. Also, Widgets 2.0 is being I don't want to say outsourced, open sourced. It's being open sourced so that you can make changes to it however you want. more news is going to come on that, but basically last week Walter put out a blog post on it and said, basically we're going to be open sourcing Widgets 2.0, and so there'll still be like a core version that we will build on and support, of course, but it's because it's open source, you'll be able to do whatever crazy thing it is that you want to be able to do with the widgets on your own. So that'll be great, I think. Also on the blog last week, if you didn't get a chance to check it out, you need to check out the physics tutorial that was out there. There's a radial gravity and predicting trajectory tutorial out there that's really good. If you've seen the Major Magnet game that was the #2 top-selling app in the Apple App Store a few weeks back, it works on this idea of magnets and being attracted to something and spinning around a magnet and being propelled from one magnet to the next. And so that tutorial doesn't necessarily tell you how to build that game, but it does touch on the concept of radial gravity and being attracted to something and having collisions with something. So that's a good tutorial. We'll check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes. All right, let's get to the Geek Speak portion of our show, because this is what we're here for, right? Like I said, Bryan, thanks for being here with us today and for sharing your experience building spelling test. It's I think it's probably one of the most friendly apps that I've seen for teaching kids how to spell that's out there.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, as far as the app, I spent a lot of time trying to make it easy to use, and so there's just a lot of little subtle things that I did, like when you're adding a word, when you're done adding words, if you had finished, a lot of apps say, hey, you need to add another word, or that the word area is empty. But I just said, if looking at user experience, what people commonly do and trying to fix it. So people have said it's one of the easiest to use.
Well, tell us what exactly is spelling test. What is it? Give us the the background for those who've never seen the app before. Give us kind of a flavor of what it is and what it does.
So basically, what it is, it's a way for students to practice their spelling tests and spelling words each week. So you have a list of words, let's say 10 or 15 words, and you type in the word, you record yourself saying the word, and then the app will play back the word and ask you to spell it. And at the end, the app will look at which words you spelled correctly and which words that you didn't spell correctly, and it'll tell it to you. The other thing the app does then is you have an option to email your test scores to your teacher or email it to parents. And so it's a good way for students to practice their words and let their teachers know their progress in advance. And one last thing I'll say is the coolest thing about it is, people, it really helps them improve their test scores. You just look at the reviews and people are saying, it was impossible to get my student to study for tests, and it was a real pain having to read the words to them every week. And now they have fun. They fight over the app to do it on their own, and their test scores have improved. So I think that's really what it was all about.
Yeah, job done, right? I mean that's the outcome. Then that's good. There's one extra feature in there that I particularly like, and that is the voice portion of it. You can record your voice or something like that. Tell us about that part.
Yeah, so basically what it is you type in a word, and then you can record yourself saying the word. So what some people do is they'll type in the word cat, and then they'll record a sentence. They'll say cat, as in I am petting my cat. And what's cool about that is, it uses the device's microphone capabilities, but also what's cool about that is for a spelling test, you often have multiple words that have different spellings but similar sounds. So letting users record their own sentences, makes it powerful. And what I found is a lot of people use the spelling app actually more for vocabulary or for learning languages. So they'll do things like record themselves saying a French word, but they need to type in the English translation. So it's been a lot more flexible than just a spelling test app.
That's very interesting, because of the people that I've talked to who either have learned another language or have maybe taught somebody how to speak a different language, they say that one of the barriers is that we're not comfortable with with hearing ourselves say something different. We're uncomfortable with getting something wrong or whatever, and so it makes sense that you'd be able to record your own voice saying it, and then try to practice that, or at least be able to like hear that over and over again. So anyway, that's an interesting point. Yeah, I thought that was a very innovative way of doing it. And do you know it? Do most parents or teachers provide the spelling or the pronunciation of it, or do the kids do it, or do you know have any background?
Yeah, I mean, the feedback that I'm getting is, unless the kids are really, really young, it's usually the students are recording the words, and that's part of what makes it fun. Having said that, a new feature that I'm working on is letting people upload tests and share tests with other people. So one of the biggest users of this app is teachers, actually, and teachers will create tests, and they don't want to have to load the tests on all the different iPads in their school. So it's been a really common request is, how can I create a test once and share it with all the iPads in my classroom? What I'm working on right now will let you share it with other iPads in the classroom, but also share it on the web across devices, basically uploading tests and letting you access those tests however you want.
Are you gonna? Okay, so this is completely departure from any of the questions that I sent you. But are you going to turn that into a service or something? Is that going to be a?
Yeah. So the general idea is it's going to be a subscription service, and I look at if you're just going to create an app on one device, then having it either be free or pay 99 cents is fine. Mm-hmm. But once you're starting to upload lots of data, and I need to manage servers and all of that. From my perspective, it's going to be a real cost to me, so I want to get paid to offset that cost somehow. But also, there's a tremendous value. I mean, this is one of the most requested features is I want to be able to share tests, or I'm a teacher. I have a teacher that I've been working with, and she showed me, she did the upgrade, and the upgrade didn't go great for her, so I fixed it. But she had 150 tests and 3,000 words, and there were, probably about 1,000 tests taken on one device, and that's why the upgrade didn't work well, because I didn't expect those kinds of numbers.
Oh, yeah.
But it just shows there's some people that are really using this app a lot, and
so somewhere between cat and 3,000. That's amazing. That's amazing. So where did you come up with this idea? I mean, it seems it's a very basic idea, but how did you come up with the idea for the app?
So the truth is, a few years ago, I wanted to build a mobile app. I'd been doing some stuff on the web. To start, I'm not a programmer by trade, so I said, you know what, I'm going to get an Apple developer license and get Xcode, and I'm going to build something. And I went through the easy tutorials and built something, really easy. And then I said, what's the easiest thing I could build that would be functional and take advantage of the device capabilities also? My end goal is I want to build games, but at the time I knew I couldn't build a full-fledged game. So then I thought, let's just build something simple, really easy UI, uses something innovative. And the spelling test idea kind of came one day when I was reading the words to my kids over and over and over. And, from my perspective, it's kind of tiring reading the same word over and over again. So I said, is there a way to automate it? And that's basically where the idea came from.
That's kind of funny. So what was you? Okay, so you tried to. Did you learn Xcode? Did you do that all yourself?
Yeah, this was a long time ago. I mean, I got a book for, and I basically built all the screens for the app, using like the Xcode kind of layout thing that they had. And I got to the point where I needed to hook it up to a database, and I just couldn't do it, and the biggest problem was I had never been exposed to Objective-C at all, so it was just the learning curve for me at the time was way too much. I had done some HTML, PHP, MySQL, and that was the extent of my programming, and I've never been a programmer in my job, so kind of jumping in and doing building an Xcode app that had a lot of database functionality was something that I wasn't able to do. So I handed over all the screens. I found some developers on Elance, handed over all the code that I had built to them, and said, "Hey, can you just hook this all up and tie it into a database and get it to work?" And they built the app for me.
And how long did that process take?
So, since all the screens were done, I think in about 3 weeks they gave me back a prototype, and the prototype was very buggy. So much worse than if I was a programmer, any kind of prototype I would give back. And then there's a back and forth of, let's just say, probably a month back and forth. I want this to be here, I want this to be here. When I type in a word, it's not working the way I expect. I mean, I remember thinking at the time if I would send them suggestions, and they would come back with something like the app they would come back with. It says enter a word, and I would type in the word, and I'd hit next. And on the next page, there'd be an input field, and the input field would have the same word that I just typed. Like they didn't, zero that out. And I thought that's the first thing that I would do when I'm building a prototype is clear that out, so because you don't want to enter the same word again. But when you're the one that has the idea and know what you want to build, it's different. You have a different vision than the person that's building it for you. And I knew it was going to be kind of a difficult ride when things like that were happening in the prototypes I was getting back. But I'd say it took about 3 months before I was able to release the app, meaning everything was production ready and I could submit it to the App Store.
Okay, so that's 3 months. You found somebody on Elance, had them. You created all the screens. Found somebody on Elance, had them do everything in Xcode, and that process took 3 months.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you put it out on the marketplace, and eventually decided to rewrite it in Corona. Why was that?
Basically, I had the app available on Android, and it was native, and on iOS, and there are lots of bugs in both. And I had asked several developers to look at it, spent thousands of dollars having them try to fix the bugs, and they could not. There are issues like the sound wouldn't play for some people, or I'd enter a word and the word would show up twice in the test. And just to me, there are basic bugs that if I had written it myself, I would have found and fixed. But for some reason, the other people weren't able to fix it. So the other thing I was thinking about was I was going to be moving towards a server-side version of the app, and I just wanted to streamline the code base so that I wouldn't have to have completely different code for the Android versions versus the iOS versions, and the feature sets were completely different on the two devices, and I didn't like that either. So I decided, Corona would be a perfect way to streamline the development process, have the same features across all the different devices, and it'd be a lot cheaper for me than maintaining two different code bases and two different engineering teams.
Okay, so when you rewrote it, though, you rewrote it yourself. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And how long did that process take?
So this isn't a fair comparison. I mean, I think it took about 4 months, but that 4 months was me learning how to program too. Meaning I'd never done anything in Lua. I'd basically never done any kind of real mobile development at all. And so, and then there are a lot of hiccups along the way that the first time it was built, they never had to experience. I mean, for example, one was the app that I rewrote had a much more advanced user interface. A lot more graphics, a lot more screens, a lot more features, and on top of that, I spent a lot of time writing a keyboard, actually, which the original developers didn't have to do. So what I ended up building in the 4 months was different than what the original developers built 3 years ago in those 4 months.
Okay, but it sounds like, and of course I'm trying to make the direct comparison between the two, right? Because I want people to understand how complex it can be to deal with Xcode and those types of things. So what I hear you saying though is that you were able to, in 4 months, you were able to rewrite the app on your own without any prior knowledge of Lua programming or anything like that, and be able to add additional features into the app that weren't in the original build that was put together by professional mobile developers using Xcode.
And on top of that, what I built was also cross-platform. Okay. So the Android version, when I had a quote professional developer build my Android version, that took 3 or 4 months for them to build that too. And building a NOOK version and everything else might have taken time too. So, you must have you have a really big long-term vision for this app. I can tell, because that's a lot of effort for getting the app built in all those different platforms and working with all those different developers and stuff. Yeah. So, well, when I say all these developers, it's one developer at a time here or there. Well, first of all, the app is popular. I mean, it's a top 50 app in iOS, and I mean the free version gets up to 1,000 downloads a day, so it's not a small. I wouldn't say there's a lot of people. There's a lot of demand for it. My vision for it is basically, I have the domain funexam.com. I think that there are a lot of other examples of apps and services that I can take something that's very useful but repetitive and can be boring, taught in school, and to make it fun by using devices. The spelling test is a perfect example, but I think math facts. There's just a lot of other types of apps where I could apply the same principles. The other part of this is a lot of the app developers are just building, client-side apps, but there's a huge opportunity for teachers to build apps. I mean, to provide apps to their students and want to be able to get the information on what the students are doing and how they're progressing. And so, I'm excited that I'm able to build a server-side component to these apps and turn. When I'm competing against other people that have a standalone spelling test app, I feel like they're going to have no chance, right? Because what I'm going to be doing is going to be integrating so many other things and hooking all the information together between teachers and students.
Yeah, don't give away too much secret sauce right now.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably
we'll
a good.
Be watching this in about 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's probably a good recommendation. Don't give us the high level stuff. Don't
That's fine. I'm fine with it. I mean,
we'd love to hear it, but your competitors are going to love to hear it even more. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where did you get your artwork?
I had a question, if you don't mind, Charles.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Maybe I missed this, Bryan. You said what was it? You said something about I can't remember now, but it led me to wonder: is this your full-time job, or do you have a day job?
Right now, it's my full-time job. Okay. So a couple years ago, when I had this app built, it wasn't my full-time job, and so I was doing it all on the side. And that's also why the process of developers probably took a long time, is kind of freelancing at night, working with different people. But yeah, I mean, right now it's my full-time job, and I'm trying to figure out how big I can get this. And so yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I was just curious, because I thought by the way you said it that it sounded like you were still working, like this was your other job.
Yeah, this was kind of more of a hobby, but once it started getting more and more popular, I decided there's an opportunity, if I really focus on it, to turn it into something much bigger than it is. And so,
yeah, I agree, definitely.
As far as the artwork, I use 99 Designs, and
okay.
I posted a contest up there, and I've used the artist that won for several projects since then.
Yeah, I just finished up a project on 99 Designs not too long ago, and it's a good workspace, a good place. Did you have a good experience with it?
I would say that I posted up the project. I found one artist that I liked, And basically from then on, I just contacted that person directly. I still use 99 Designs to pay her because she's international and her payment methods I didn't want to sign up for. So, all my international payments to her go through 99 Designs. But other than that, I just work with her directly, and I haven't hired anybody on 99 Designs since.
Yeah, I had the same experience. The person that I worked with, the designer I worked with, wanted they had used 99 Designs before, but weren't crazy about the process. So we communicated back and forth via Skype and email, and then at the end, I signed them as the winner and made the payment through 99 Designs. So it was almost a Frankenstein of the process, but overall, I think it was good. I'd probably use it again. I don't know. I'd be open to it.
I'm open to using it again too, but I think just because I have somebody I'm happy with, right now I don't need anybody, I guess.
You're right, right. So did you give them the specs for what you wanted, or did you just describe what you wanted, or how did they come up with the design?
So the app was already live. So
Okay.
So the designer wasn't able to, didn't have an iPhone and so couldn't use the app. But what I did was I took screenshots of every relevant page, sent them the screenshots and just said, hey, I want you to make this look nicer. And, a couple iterations later, I was pretty happy with the product.
Okay, excellent. Okay, that makes sense. So let's talk about some of the technical details, if you don't mind sharing some of that. So how do you maintain your code between you have a free version and a paid version? So give us an idea of kind of how that works.
Yeah, so I have one code base. Right now, the biggest difference between the free version and the paid version is the free version only allows you to create one test. So you can delete the test and create another one. But obviously, if you have multiple students, you're going to want to be able to create more than one test. Or if you're a parent with 2 kids, you're not going to want to only have one test. So over time, the differences will be more. But in the end, there's not a huge amount of differences between the two, but it's enough that it's really compelling for people to pay for the paid version. What I do is I have to change my build settings for things like display names and package names. And I have one configuration flag that I change from free to paid, and I drop in different icons, and that's it. So it's really, really nice, actually. When I used Xcode, it was a similar process, but they're using targets, but it just, I felt like there was a lot more things that I had to do, and it was kind of complicated, and so yeah, same code base. I change a couple flags. It takes me 30 seconds to switch between the free and the paid.
Okay. Okay, and it's good to hear that you are offering value in the free version. It seems like some apps they want to provide a free version, which is really just a stub for give me money. But you're providing a value, and you can fully evaluate the app.
So the truth is, yeah, you can fully evaluate the app, but the truth is that I'm considering even going more free with the app because I think the subscription services, once they're launched, will be compelling. So
that makes sense. Yeah, now the app is just a marketing tool for the service.
For the subscription services once they're live, yeah. So you might be able the current paid version may become the free version, quite honestly.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're using to flip through the different screens, or are you using Storyboard, or what are you doing for that?
Yeah, I use Storyboard, and there was a little bit of a learning curve with Storyboard, but I feel like I understand it now, and it's really powerful. Once you figure out how to use it.
Yeah, we're doing a rewrite of Storyboard, so some things will hopefully get a lot more simplified in the next version. But I agree. I hear that from people that sometimes Storyboard can be a little overwhelming, especially because it does more things than you need it to do, and I think that's the part of the complication for most people.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. What were we going to say?
I was going to say, for my app, basically, there are a lot of different screens, and a lot of the screens look kind of similar, and so. It took me some time to figure out how to integrate storyboard with external class files to create, layouts and things like that. And then the biggest thing, because my app is very database driven, is let's say I'm looking at a list of tests and I click on one test to view a list of words. I obviously wanted the same code base to show the words, but I didn't know how to pass the test ID. And the parameters for storyboard, to pass parameters weren't out yet when I started working on this, or I hadn't found them yet at least. And so I was at a loss, and I ended up creating a an app settings file where once you click on a certain test, I store the test ID in memory, and then and then I go to the words page and load that test ID. And then what I found was when the parameters came out, I actually liked my approach better because there's sometimes when I need to reload a screen, and it was easier just to rely on the test ID in memory than have to continually try to remember to pass parameters in every single part of my code where I'm trying to go to a different page.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Yeah, whatever is the simplest solution wins, right?
Yep.
So how do you handle different device sizes then, different orientations and stuff?
So that's a good question, especially because the version that I have live now doesn't do it as well as I'd like. The version I have now, it does a few things. So one is my configuration is I use Letterbox, and then I basically set, pretty early on in the process when the app launches, I'm setting global variables for the top, bottom, left, and right boundaries of the screen size. So this is the actual, physical, for each device, that the top and bottom boundaries and the left and right boundaries will be different. And I'm storing that so that, no matter what device you're on, the screen is going to be stretching to fit the device's, viewable area. And then basically, I position things relative to either the top, the bottom, the left or right, or the center. So, buttons that belong near the top of the screen are going to be positioned based on the top plus a certain amount of pixels, and things near the bottom of the screen are going to be bottom minus a certain amount of pixels. And that worked for the most part. And, I thought I did a great job, and I launched it, and then I got tons of complaints. And the complaints are from iPad users. And iPad users said, "Why are your font sizes so big? I don't like that the font sizes are so big." And I'm not a visual person, actually. So to me, I looked at it on my iPad and I said, "Oh, this works fine. This looks great." So what I had to do was I had to download and run the old version to see what was happening. And basically, let's just say that on an iPhone, you can see 10 rows of spelling tests on one screen. On an iPad, you can see 10 rows also, the way that I'd set it up. But people were complaining that you could easily read 20 rows worth of text on an iPad, even though 20 rows would be completely unreadable on an iPhone. So this wasn't an aspect ratio problem. This was a physical device screen size problem.
A user experience problem kind of thing?
It's a user experience problem, but it's really based on the device's physical screen size, not on anything that I had access to in code. Okay. Or I don't think Corona gives me access to the device's physical screen size yet. So what I did was I found some code online, and basically, what that code did was it would take the model of the device that the user's on, and it would spit back what the physical screen size is. And based on that code, I decided, I don't care about the thousands of phone models and the thousands of different devices that are out there. My assumption is going to be that if I don't know what the device is, the screen size is going to be roughly 4 inches, and it's going to be similar to an iPhone. And I'm only going to specify devices that I know to be big. So a Galaxy Tab, a Kindle Fire HD, a iPad. And then I have an if statement in my code that basically says, if this is a big device, show more rows. If it's a small device, show less rows. So that's at a high level what I'm doing. And that's not live in the version that's live today, but I basically knew that I needed to fix this, and it took me, a couple hours to fix this. And I think this shows one benefit for me of switching to Corona and programming on my own is this whole process would have taken much longer if I was relying on other developers to do it, across multiple different, across Android and iOS. And instead it took me, minutes to fix it instead of, days and weeks of bugging somebody else to fix it.
Well, yeah, anytime that you can do instant feedback or instant modifications, like you were talking about earlier, seeing something that's wrong in your app and just being able to fix it, not having to type it up and describe to someone what you're seeing or creating screenshots and trying to communicate to somebody, but actually just knowing what the problem is and just go in and fix it right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a better plan, I think.
Yep.
Okay, so tell us about the keyboard itself. Now, you said you did a lot of work in that area.
Yeah, so let me actually try pulling up. I'll tell you about it, but I might. Oops, I'm launching something again. Well, I'll describe it first, and then we'll see if I need to pull it up. Basically, I create a spelling test. I saw that there was a simple audio recorder, so I could record words through Corona. And I saw that I could access the old database, so I could, port over the old data to the new app. And so I said, okay, I'll build a spelling test in Corona. Should be no problem. And I had built a lot of different things first, and then I got to the point where I needed people to be able to add words or take a test, and the spelling suggestions kept popping up, or the auto capitalization would happen, or I would type a word and would auto-correct the word. And in a spelling app, the last thing you want is somebody to be taking a test and it fixes spelling for you. And it was driving me crazy. And so then I looked online, and there was no way to disable this because the keyboard input is a native text input thing, and Corona doesn't yet give control to be able to disable auto capitalization, auto correction, and spelling. So basically, the native text input became useless for me, and I almost scrapped the product there. And and I'm not saying that Corona is bad by saying this. I'm saying that how many developers need to be able to disable auto capitalization? It's just not something that most people would care about. But in my case, it's essential, right? So, then I had the idea that what if I just write my own keyboard? So, I basically built my own keyboard and laid it out, and it took a long time to be able to handle shifting between a number and symbol keyboard versus capital letters versus lowercase. I'm not saying it's a big project, but if you're not a quote real programmer, then it's a pain in the ass to maintain it. No, sorry, a pain in the butt to maintain a keyboard. Anyway, but I did it, and I was feeling really great about myself. I made it, it worked, and I sent it to some of my beta test users, and I had a small sample. But one of the users said, I need an app that works with Hebrew. And so I said, okay, let me look up Hebrew. How hard can it be? And it turned out that it was
last one.
Between having multi-byte type characters, right to left orientation, everything. And then I said, well, if I'm going to solve this problem, I want to solve it for all languages. So then I looked at the Spanish keyboards, the Chinese keyboards, the Korean keyboards, and I realized this is a huge headache. I'm never going to be able to solve it. So it was important enough for me to upgrade the users that the solution I came up with the last time around was I'll launch the app with the default keyboard, but I'll highlight a way to switch to a device keyboard. And the device keyboard popped up a big ugly error screen that says, look, you're using the device's keyboard. You have to turn off auto capitalization. You have to turn off spelling suggestions. You have to turn off all these things, or else the app isn't going to be useful. But if you want to use the app in other languages, this is the best way to go, or the only way to go. And I got a lot of feedback from users. Some users just don't read the message, so they're using it in English, and they're saying, why do you keep capitalizing my letters? So basically, I got all this feedback that the keyboard, solution I came up with didn't work, and so what I did was two things. One is I've been looking into the Corona Enterprise because I'm sure that I could, build in the appropriate hooks. I don't think I could, but I could hire somebody to build in the appropriate hooks for the native keyboard. And I looked at it, and it wasn't something I was going to be able to do soon, and I wanted to solve this problem right away. So then I came up with another solution, which, more, wearing a developer hat, I was kind of proud of. Basically, I found a way to disable auto capitalization and spelling suggestions and the auto correction. And the way I did it is I used the native text input, but instead of relying on what's typed in the native text input to be what to show on the screen, I move the native text input off screen, or I make it invisible. And I stuff the native text input with some characters in front of it. So I stuff it with the words show keyboard. And it's something where, like, anything you type after that, Apple is never going to make a autocorrection suggestion. They're never going to ask you to capitalize it because it's already part of another word. And so, I thought I had the problem solved. If let's say the initial string is show keyboard, if it's show keyboard D is what I see, typed in, then I'm going to print the letter D on the screen. And if the input is show keyboard without the D, then I know the user tried to delete it. And so, like, I'm going to do a delete, command on the word. And everything worked fine until I started testing multi-byte characters. And then, and I have no experience dealing with Chinese characters and multi-byte characters, but you need to figure out whether the character was multi-byte or not, the last character, to know how many, to know how much to delete. And I basically said, well, this is simple. Like, if a user's typing in a word, I'm going to store in a table or somewhere every single letter that they typed in so that I'll know what to delete. But the problem is, if you're editing an existing word, I don't have any data on, was this multi-byte or not? Do I have to delete, one character or one, byte or multiple bytes or whatever it is. I searched on different forums and I found some code that basically can detect whether the last character, the length of the last character, and I'm using that now. So that's a long-winded way of saying that the next version of the app, I think the keyboard support that I'm going to provide users is exactly what they're looking for. And I did it just purely by doing some sort of a hack to get it to work, basically.
That's incredible. I mean, just the fact that you've spent so much time doing that and being able to do it on your own is great. And I like the fact that I love hearing that you're kind of hacking, using the text field for something else and moving it off screen and things like that you just wouldn't think to do. Most of the time, people, I think, well, this is what I have, and this is all I can do. But you're definitely thinking outside the box on that.
Outside the box and outside the screen, I guess. No, but the truth is, this was after spending several weeks writing the keyboard and doing it that I figured the solution out. So it was, but the truth is, a lot of I guess a lot of the code that I used to develop the keyboard I'm still using because I have my own cursor still and input area and all these things, and that stuff is still usable even if I'm not using the actual keyboard itself.
Gotcha. Okay. Now you talked about custom scrolling lists as well. So what was the story there?
Basically, I wanted the user interface to be similar to what native iOS apps have, where I have a big list. Let's say you're seeing a big list of tests. I wanted to be able to click an edit button and have all the tests shift to the right and have little minus buttons next to each test name. And when I click on the minus button, the button turns to the left a little bit, and then a delete button pops up. And when I click on the delete button, then everything moves. So basically what I needed was a scrolling list that had multiple touch events and I could apply transitions to, and then I could manipulate. And based on what I'd seen out of the box, I didn't see anything that could easily do it. So I basically used the widget 1.0 kind of whatever you would call it file. I stripped out everything that wasn't related to the scroll view because I just didn't want to see it. Actually, no, that's not what I did. First, I was just requiring the widget. What are you calling it? I was requiring widget anyway, and one day it broke. And finally, I realized that you guys had upgraded to a new widget, and all of my code broke. So I found the old widget code online, and I imported that directly into my app instead of relying on Corona to do it, and I basically got it all to work.
Okay.
So I'm writing to make it all work. I'm basically using transitions to shift stuff left and right, and turn the delete button and etc. But I'm happy with the end result.
Okay. Well, good. So, what have you been doing to market spelling test? I mean, it sounds like you have a much bigger plan for everything than just the app. But what have you been doing initially to market?
So the app has been live for a few years, and the truth is, early on, I did spend a lot of time marketing on it. Since I wasn't going to develop it, I spent more time marketing it, and I basically found a lot of review sites and blogs and contacted them. Another thing I did was I basically went to a lot of different ad networks and bought a lot of installs. My thinking, and I'm more of a marketing and product person than a developer, but I'm I guess wannabe developer. But my hat has traditionally always been the marketing side, and so my theory was I want to get to the top of the education category and see how much money I make, the benefit of being one of the top apps. And if it costs me, let's say, $300 a day or $1,000 a day to be one of the top apps, but I make more than $1,000 because I'm one of the top apps, then it's profitable for me to do it. So in the first week, I basically spent a lot of money buying downloads, and I was the #1 app in the education category for a couple hours. And then I started seeing how much money I was making by being at the top, and it wasn't a lot. If I spent $1,000, I would make $200 back. So I knew it wasn't sustainable. But it turned out just by being at the top of the list for a short period of time, whatever work I could have done contacting blog sites on my own, there's a lot of automated services that look at the top apps, and they end up automatically writing reviews or flagging them for review. And all of a sudden, there are all these different, sites talking about my app just because it was, in a top 10 list. The truth is, it's a lot harder to do that today than it was 3 years ago. It wasn't that hard for me to get to the top of the education category 3 years ago. I think it'd be really hard today, paying for it. Then what I did is I introduced the email feature, which was, you can take a test and you can email the results. And it turns out that word of mouth spread because of this. A student would email to the teacher, then the teacher would say, hey, I want all my other students to use this. So right now, I actually do nothing to market the app anymore. All I focus on right now is, my focus now is more on providing better features so I can retain users, and then providing advanced features so I can get more money from users by provide a better service for them that they're willing to pay for and monetize them better. But some of the features that I'm working on that provide a lot of value are things like sharing. And the sharing is just going to make the app that much more viral. So it's going to, my background is I've worked at a lot of social media type companies, like I worked at Friendster, which was kind of the Facebook before Facebook. So, I have a lot of experience kind of thinking about how do you spread word of mouth and make something viral. One thing I'll say, I say it kind of jokingly, but I'm kind of a lazy person, meaning I always try to find the easiest way to get a job done. And marketing for me is a really painful thing. So I'd rather rely on my users to market the app than for me to market the app. And so, that's how I'm going to market the app, is rely on figuring out new features that'll help the users market it. So all I can do is focus on coding and building out features.
Yeah, and that's smart. Word of mouth is. I don't care if it's an app or if it's offline business. It's always much more compelling than an advertising campaign or something like that, and it's more sustainable long term, because with advertising, if you turn off the money, then you turn off the advertising. But word of mouth seems to be so much stronger, just because they have buy-in. They kind of borrow whatever credibility that person has. And when they're telling them about the app, so they already trust that person, they already trust their recommendation, or they trust the experience that they can share with them, and things like that. It's really hard to communicate those types of things in a written paragraph, or a lot of people try to do it with video, which is a much stronger form of media for communications and stuff like that. But in the thumbnail images and the paragraph description, it's hard to communicate that. But a word of mouth recommendation from somebody is hugely compelling.
Yeah, and I think just for the other developers out there, I think the one lesson is really think about who your app's audience is, and there's going to be different audiences. Like for my app, I have the student is one audience, a parent is another audience, and a teacher is another audience, and then somebody that's more involved at a school-wide level, like whoever makes buying decisions for a school district is going to be another person in the audience. And just really think about, who you want to target to market the app, and how can you build the app in a way that's going to satisfy those users. What features can you build? It's not just about, I'm going to plug in Facebook integration and it's going to market itself. It's, who are the people that are most likely to share this? And in my case, I think parents and teachers are really likely to share something that helps their kids with other people. So, that's what I'm going to focus on, is make the app really useful for kids, but build sharing features that are really useful for teachers and parents.
That's a good perspective. Yeah, definitely. Well, where can someone learn more about spelling tests?
You can just go to funexam.com, funexam.com, to learn more.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for sharing all that information with us today. It's been very helpful. I have one more question for you. Do you plan to do any sort of promotional trailer at any point, and create a video for it?
You know what? I would like to. This is more of a time thing. If anybody has any suggestions for an easy way to get that done, I'd definitely be open to hearing it. But like you said, I think a video is a lot more valuable than a spoken word. And there's a user actually that did post a video on YouTube saying how they used spelling tests in the classroom. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just encourage users to create these trailers for me, and I'll find the best one and I'll use that on my site.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. It definitely sort of lends itself, because it's a spelling test, it sort of lends itself to that either Apple-esque or Google commercial, where it's got the typing, and then you kind of go through a series of words, and then maybe even the voice portion of it, and then I don't know. It just seems like that it has to be kind of a bouncy little story told in video. So. But no, it's awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Well, before we leave out of here today, we need to name our this week's T-shirt winner. So let me just get down to the bottom of the list here. So every week, for you, if you're just now tuning into the show for the very first time, every week we give away a Corona Labs T-shirt to one of our community members. Now, in order to be eligible for a chance to win a T-shirt, you have to do two things. One is, we would appreciate it if you'd follow us on some form of social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Google+, YouTube, whatever. And then you have to go over to coronageek.com/giveaway and fill out the giveaway entry form. And once you've done that, you're entered for a chance to win a Corona Labs T-shirt. Now this week, our winner is Mark Allen. Mark heard about Corona Geek on Twitter. He followed us on Twitter, and then he went over and he filled out that form that I just told you about for a chance to win, and we drew his name from a hat, so now Mark is going to get a T-shirt. So I'm going to be sending that out to him this week, and that couldn't be any easier than that. Dean, you got anything before we go? Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, I was a little bit late today. I had a similar issue with my app with the keyboard, but I had to recreate the number one.
Yeah?
Because I didn't really have like the uses that the Bryan does. It was mainly just the SPS call part of it. I implemented the native keyboard, and it didn't really fit with my design scheme, so that was a bit of a challenge trying to recreate what already exists. It was quite fun to do.
You also published multiple platforms as well, too. So did you have any problem with sizes of things on your screen?
No, not really. I've tested it in the simulator from the Droids to the Kindle Fire. That config file, the ultimate config file, that come in very handy for that.
Yeah, I'm going to send you that link, Bryan. There's actually a blog post out there called the Ultimate Config Lua file, and that, I don't know, did you see that one?
I saw that, and then I saw another link which did something different. And for my uses, I prefer the other one. But yeah, I did see the ultimate config file.
Okay. Yeah, because I figured that maybe Dean had run across that as well. But Dean, your interface is more it's number tap, and it lends itself to being bigger on the screen if the physical device size is bigger, right?
That's right. Yeah. So it's mainly it just scales. It's not really a different layout or anything.
Right. Yeah. So it's just I think it's just a different thing. And Bryan, what you're describing earlier was it still functionally worked. It was just a matter of user preference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us today. And Bryan, hang on after the show. We'll talk a little bit more. But thank you, everyone, for watching and for being here on today's Google Hangout. We'll be back here next Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, right here talking about Corona SDK and mobile app development. So until next week, happy coding.